What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the opening pair, Art of Conversation. I'm lucky enough to be joined this evening by Irish international Mary Waldron. Mary, good evening. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for having me on.
Great, delighted to be joined by you. Really looking forward to having a bit of a chat and finding out things about yourself, and yeah, having a bit of fun.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So let's start at the start. So, where did you grow up? Tell us about your younger years.
So I grew up in Bornabrina, which is I like to tell people that it's not Tallinn, it's not Wicklow, it's right in the middle, but it's up the mountains. But yeah, so I had plenty of fields to run around in and trees to climb. So I'm the baby of six siblings, so I had plenty of people to kick the ball with me or do whatever in the garden. We played lots of sports, and I had some neighbours next door that we played with as well. So yeah, I spent a lot of the time in the garden running around basically when I was growing up. Yeah.
So it's fair to say it was an active childhood.
Yes, very much so. We used to we'd build huts or climb trees or do whatever, and then yeah, I played a lot of football in the garden, even by myself after school. It was yeah, I was obviously loved it enough to do that.
Very good, very good. And I suppose the one question when you do say you play a lot of football and stuff, and it springs to mind the sports and your earliest memories or your favorite memories of growing up with football and sports.
Yeah, so I joined. I guess my earliest memory of organized sport is I joined the local club when I was maybe 11 or 12. So I remember going down, and actually I joined the athletics club by accident. I came home from training when my parents collected me, and I was like, "Yeah, we just kind of ran around. There was no football." And then I realized that actually I was at the athletics training and not football. I found that out the week after. But sure, look, that's part and parcel of it. Have to find the right path. But yeah, that's I guess my earliest memory of organized. But I played a lot of sport in the garden with my siblings, and I do remember when we were very young making little mud paths for rugby kicking for my brother to practice his goal kicking. So that's definitely a sporting memory. But yeah, we were pretty young then.
So would it be fair to say that your brothers were your earliest sporting memory, or was it somebody else?
Yeah, I guess we all played different sports, but my both my sisters played sport as well in school, and my brothers also. Everybody, probably one of my brothers didn't play a huge amount growing up that I would have witnessed, but yeah, my brothers and my sisters were both, I guess, good role models for me, in that they always had training or some sort of games and stuff like that. So, yeah, I've got to blame them all. They ended up having to drive me to training in the end, so it was their own fault for doing that.
A labor of love, so for them.
Yeah, that's it.
um, yeah. So and you say you joined the club when you were 11 or so, and I guess you started to really fall into the training and the regime of and everything. Did you sort of have a stage where you realized, oh, I can play this at a really decent level, and I'm really making strides here?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I probably didn't think too deeply about it. Because I started, yeah, I must have been 11 when I started, and then 12. I was 12 when I played for. We used to play down in the Gainer tournament in Limerick, but I got selected for the Dublin. I think it was might be South Dublin or a Dublin team. But it's a big tournament anyway when you're younger, and from that then you get selected for the Irish team. But I remember the first year I played, there was two girls on my team got picked for the Irish team, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's kind of like that's how it happens. And then the year after, then when I was 13, I got selected, but I didn't. I don't think I really went and be like, oh, I have to play for Ireland or anything like that. But it was just kind of a natural progression where I got picked early into the system, if that makes sense. So it just was kind of like a natural progression, and then I could see the pathway then for those around me, and I just followed suit really. So
So you were obviously very self motivated then.
yeah, do you know what? It's funny when looking back at it now. Like I don't know if I really knew that I was self motivated, but I did. I remember when I was younger, I built my own ladder like a training ladder for footwork. I got some rope
Oh.
and some wood and made one. So there was obviously something in me that went, you need to practice this, and this is what other people do. And I would have played, like, I played a lot with my siblings and my neighbors, but I also used to kick the ball against the wall myself, like for hours on end, and that practice. So I obviously did have the motivation, but I think it was easy to be motivated because I loved it. There was never a time where I was like, oh God, I don't want to do this, or I felt like my parents were pushy or anything like that. My parents are not like that at all. So yeah, I guess I had it, but I wouldn't have been able to tell you that I had it, that kind of way putting it. There was no bracket that I could have put on it at the time.
And you mentioned something that actually piqued my interest in that. We see now with training in all sports, it's very regimented and there's drills and stuff like that. But you mentioned you kick the ball against the wall at home and stuff like that. Do you think that those kind of skills can be brought into the game in any sport, really, just your own way of doing things?
Yeah, definitely. Just a little bit of transfer skills and problem solving. And I find now that we're nearly, like, in all sports, I've got lots of friends who are sporty as well, and you can see it in different trainings. Now, it is important to get to that when you're at the high level. There is structure and stuff, but there's definitely scope for more, just like more natural play, if that makes sense. But yeah, definitely when you get to the higher end, of course, you're trying to fine tune these things. But I think the way the world now, it's just probably people are becoming a bit more professional, a bit younger, and they lose that sort of play aspect of sports. And really, that's why we do it, because we love playing the sport. You don't start out going, I want to become a multimillionaire soccer star, the kind of way. That's not generally everybody's goal. It's to get out there and have fun, and you like scoring goals or making tackles or whatever. But I do definitely agree with you. And certainly the transfer of sports, I know it's a big thing in New Zealand. They try and encourage people to play lots of different sports so they have transferable skills, and so you don't get burnout in one sport either. So yeah, no, definitely agree with you on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose you mentioned you started out with the love of the game, but obviously you moved on to a quite a high level, and you were in the UCD and you were studying and playing, and you managed to win a few trophies and score a few big goals.
Yes, I was. Yeah, UCD was brilliant. That was a real kind of first taste of professionalism for me. Not that I've ever been a professional footballer in any shape or form, but we were training 3 times a week. We'd ice baths after training. You couldn't miss training. I remember 2 of the girls having gone to a concert and being like petrified about telling the coach and stuff like that. So there was an expectation that we would be dedicated. But yeah, I loved my time in UCD. Yeah, we did. We won lots of stuff. We were probably wasn't the best team I've ever played on, skills wise, talent wise, but we all were on the same page in terms of our commitment and hard work. It was definitely the most hardworking team I played on. That's for sure. We were, all together for that common goal. But I played in, say, European Cup and stuff like that with them, and two European Cups. So I really enjoyed my time there. Yeah.
Well, that's quite an achievement. You kind of passed it off as if it was just but that's an amazing achievement. Yeah, and you mentioned that professional level and stuff. Was there ever an option for you to go, say, to the UK or anything like that?
To be honest, I actually, when I was in UCD, I studied languages. I did French and Italian. So actually, I probably would have pursued going to the continent to play, but I ended up going to America for a year. So I'd kind of contemplated it while I was in school about going to America, and then I got into college in Dublin, and I was like, well, our education system is so good, why would I go away? But I got the opportunity to transfer for a year, and that was brilliant. It was just so different. Like, again, the standards are up, the facilities, like, I was only in a Division 2 school, wasn't even in Div 1, and we made like the quarterfinals, and we were treated like unbelievable. We were like queens on campus, and I was like, Jesus, settle down, everybody. But that experience was brilliant. And then I came back from that and did a bit of traveling, and I think it would have been then I would have gone maybe to the UK to play, but I was happy with my life in Dublin and the level that I was playing at, so I never really pursued that. At the time as well, it wasn't as you would have had to work in the club and stuff like that at so um, it wasn't as glamorous as it sounds. It's much, much better now, and there's plenty of Irish girls over there, and they're doing brilliantly, and they're well supported. But yeah, if I had a gone, probably would have been more so to France or Italy.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's amazing. You had many doors open to you, but it just at the time wasn't for you. But I guess you also represented Ireland in football. What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was cool. It's one of those things I kind of, because I started so early that it was just like, yeah, this is just normal. That's what you do. You play a sport and you
Mm.
play for Ireland, kind of way. So I guess I'm just in a bit of a privileged position to have that experience. But yeah, I made my first squad when I was 13, under 16s, and just played right through in the age groups. I never really kind of made it in senior level. So kind of between I have two caps at senior level, and one, I think there's maybe 7 or 8 years apart. So I think that you can fill in the gaps there. But yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable, and It's funny with cricket, we don't do it that often, but I absolutely love singing the national anthem before a game. It's a weird thing. I know that's not obviously about a song, but like at that
Yeah.
moment where you're all belting it out, and then you've got to go on the pitch and you're all G'd up and ready to go. I used to love doing that. But
And would you ever have come across Katie Taylor at all? She was the same. She boxed and played football.
yes, I played a good bit of football with Katie Taylor. Yeah, underage. I think we played maybe some under 17 and under 19 stuff. I was her captain, and then we've played some club stuff together in James's Gate, and like just played against her plenty as well. She was a phenomenal athlete, unbelievably driven as well, but you definitely didn't want to be on the wrong side of a tackle anyway. She could time them, and then there was times she couldn't time them. But yeah, she was so good. Like just her athletic ability, even at that kind of teenage, she was light years ahead of anybody. Yeah, she was, and obviously just amazing. I remember where I was when she won her gold medal. The kind of way she's a legend. Yeah.
She's up there. Okay, so one last football question I have for you, and it's 2008 last injury time penalty. What's going through your mind?
I can tell you exactly what went through my mind, and I'm glad I remembered, because sometimes I struggle with the old memory for football. But I said to myself, "It's just you're taking a penalty against your brother in the back garden," and that's exactly what I thought to myself. And I was very, very focused, because I remember it took a while for whatever happened. It took for a while for the penalty to be taken, so I was like, "Yep, that's nothing. This is not a special moment at all. It's just a normal, regular penalty kick that you've taken millions of times in your life in the garden." So, yeah, thankfully it went in.
It obviously worked, yeah. It obviously worked, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's an unbelievable mindset to have in that moment. But I guess look, let's get into the cricket career, and you're playing internationally since 2010. But where did that journey begin? The actual cricket itself, was it long after football, or did you balance both, or how did it work?
Yeah, I balanced both for a while. I remember one of the years, because obviously I was working, and when I think I had 40 days annual leave that my boss paid me for. That was with Elite Healthcare. Thanks, Linda. But like that kind of like it's mad to think, and obviously that support from work is so important if you're even contemplating that. But yeah, I think I started in maybe, I'm going to say 2004, 5 maybe. There was a girl. So when I was in UCD, a girl on my soccer team absolutely loved cricket, and yeah, that was pretty much it. We were friends. She wouldn't stop talking about cricket. I joined Pembroke as you know, it's a very social club. So
Yeah.
used to go down and hang out, and then as I was sporty, I kind of got roped into just playing a few games and maybe coming down to training and trying it out. But soccer was always my main sport. So it was I never really committed to anything, to be honest. If I was free, I'd play, and if I wasn't, I wasn't. And then a few years later, it must have been, I don't know, maybe 5 years later or something. Our wicket-keeper, she was an archaeologist, and she went away on a dig for the summer. Which you can't blame her, obviously. That'd be a fabulous opportunity. So we needed a wicket-keeper, and they were just like, "You do it." So I then, I think I was about 25 then. Um, and yeah, so then the next summer, I kept in a handful of games for club, and then the next summer, I think it might have been a pre-season game. There was an or an Ireland A selector saw me, and they're like, "Will you come down to training?" And then that was probably, I don't know, say May, and then I made my debut that July. So it was very, very quick, to be fair, and it was just timing. I think, like, I was very fortunate that I was wicket keeping at all. Very lucky that he saw me, and very lucky there was a gap maybe in the squad for me to come in as well. So
Wow, that's quite the journey to start off from zero to straight into the Irish setup. Yeah, and I guess it's fascinating that you were 25 or so when you took up the game. Do you think that was an advantage almost, that you came from, you knew yourself, your body, you knew your training regime, everything so well, that you could take up a new sport, reasonably quickly?
Yeah, I do think it was definitely an advantage going, and everything happening. Looking back now, everything happening so quickly. Certainly going and making my debut and not having that much experience. But I think the fact that I'd experienced at international level,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I think that really, really helped. Obviously, just not knowing. I mean, it held me back. Not that it held me back, but not knowing. Like, I mean, I remember being wicket keeper and was like, my coach been like, "Why aren't you helping Isabel with the angles?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what you're talking about." So, in that respect, it was difficult because I felt like I wasn't giving enough to the team, and I
Hmm.
wasn't doing part of my job. So it made me like like learn and like research and watch more cricket and stuff like that. But I think at the beginning, definitely my international experience did help. But it's it definitely yeah, it was definitely a balance. I definitely felt like I wasn't contributing as much as I could or should,
Hmm.
potentially. Obviously,
Hmm.
with my experience at cricket, I guess I was doing the best I could, but I wanted to be doing more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always the case. But I can only imagine the changes that you've seen in the sport itself in Ireland. I'd imagine from once you start to now.
Yeah, it's been massive actually because when I first started playing, I used to have to explain to people what cricket was. Just like,
Hmm.
if you're
Hmm.
having a conversation with someone who's like, "Oh yeah, I was away," or whatever. And now everybody knows what cricket is. It's become much more, mainstream, and you see it around. So, and then in terms of the support we get, we're obviously fortunate to have some part-time contracts in the squad now. We get, um, really well looked after by Cricket Ireland. We go on more tours and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's in the 10 years or so, it's been a huge, huge change.
Yeah. As you say, you go on tours and stuff like that. And as a person, as much as a professional and semi-professional or whatever the case may be, how do you balance, say, your training, your travel, all that sort of stuff, living on the road? It must be a certain a difficult way to grow up, I guess.
Yeah, do you know what? I think there's two aspects to that. I've been really lucky with my employment. And I think also I'm pretty strong-minded on that. If an employer wasn't gonna play a ball with me, I'd just be like, "All right, see ya." Um, but I do think growing up and having to, so from the age of 13 and being on tour and having to manage, doing schoolwork or studying for exams while I was away, and it's always been something that I've done or had to do, that I think I've been lucky having that kind of balance in life, that it's just a natural progression. It's not suddenly something different that I have to deal with. Um, yeah, but we have support now, even with, with Cricket Ireland and the Players Association. If there's any issues, with work, we can go to them for assistance, or Cricket Ireland put in a phone call or help us with our scheduling. So we do have a much more rounded support. But yeah, sometimes it's nice just to sit on the couch and do nothing. But
Yeah, and I guess, when you're away like that, you're sort of living with a group of people, and you're training with them all day long. You're eating everything. You must all be really good pals.
yeah. We are. It's funny actually. It's You do, and to be fair, we've been really lucky, I think, with the squad. I don't know now. To be fair, I'm 20 years older than some of the squad, so I'd say they probably are like, "Jesus, all right, mum, settle down over there." But I do enjoy the squad we have, and they're a really lovely group, um, And obviously with the girls retiring a few years ago, they're like
Mhm.
three of my best friends just in life in general retired. So
Yeah.
I was like, I was really missing them. But actually, the new group of girls are fantastic, and they've really looked after me as the older one as well. But when you come back from a tour, it's just that's when it's shell shock. You're like, where is everybody? And you're kind of a
Mhm.
bit
Mhm.
lonely, and you're like, oh, I miss
Mm.
poor life. So there's always that couple of days to a week of adjusting back to your normal life again. That
Normal.
can be hard. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and just when we do say normal, it's been an abnormal 18 months or so on top of living with everybody. How is the bubble life? We've heard so much about the bubble life, and we see Ben Stokes having to take time away, and how has that been?
Yeah, do you know what? I think yeah, it's definitely not been easy for everyone. I'm lucky in the fact that I'm introvert, so
Okay.
I can spend time by myself, and I'm very happy spending time by myself. So I have to say the bubble life is for me has been fine so far, but absolutely it's not for everybody, and it's definitely a
Mhm, mhm,
challenge. Absolutely a
mhm,
challenge. Certainly for some of the younger girls who like miss that company or their
mhm.
friends or stuff all the way, or just sitting chatting with somebody in the
Yeah.
evening. Like, I know that's the one that we recently had the Netherlands series in Portmarnock, and I was like, I just kind of miss going into, Dell's or Shauna's room for a cup of tea. Like, we can't even go into each other's rooms. So it is very strict. But I mean, yeah, I'm just my personality. It suits me. It definitely doesn't suit everybody. And yeah, Ben Stokes is it's brilliant that he's come out and spoken about it. And I'm not sure if it was necessarily bubble fatigue or
Mhm.
culmination of things, but it's definitely a conversation to be had because yeah, bubble fatigue is not something that um is something people should shy away from. It's real life, and if you're not happy, you're not happy. Sport doesn't matter at that stage.
Absolutely, absolutely. I echo those words completely. But you've mentioned that there's a couple of younger girls coming through, the likes of Leah Paul or the Pendergast, Gabby Lewis. Like the future is extremely, extremely bright for Irish women's cricket. Like how excited should we get as fans for what's to come?
Very excited. Always have be excited, fans. Yeah, do you know what it is? Like it is super, and hopefully, in the coming years they're all fully professional within Ireland as well. Um, and you see Gabby playing in the 100 last week, and not she'll be playing another few games hopefully in the next few days. Um, so yeah, that's just kind of the start of it. I think she's been a rookie in for the WBBL and stuff like that, but actual full contracts, yeah, and she's frighteningly good. Before she hits the ball, clears the boundary with ease. So
Mhm.
yeah, and the way like there's also I think it's called the Hong Kong Invitational, and that's starting next year. So there's another opportunity for our girls, and little things like that are going to start popping up. And obviously, the better we do in them, it will be in the shop window for the bigger leagues. And definitely, the girls have the potential. I do think Orla Prendergast as well is exceptional. She's really like her. She's the triple threat. She has it everything. But to be fair, all the girls you've mentioned there, Paulie, Gabby, and OP, they're all great girls. So I have no doubt that if they travel, they'll slot right into those teams and just, bring a bit of banter as well, which is always important when you're going to these franchises.
The fans are getting excited, so that's always
Yes,
it's good
yes.
that the Few in Hand Appreciation Society will be en route. So,
Good to hear.
but yeah, I actually one of my next questions was actually going to be about the 100 and how big of an influence it's had, and it's just been fantastic to see women's cricket and men's cricket on the same platform on prime time, and everyone's tuning in, and it's exploded, absolutely exploded.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. And I don't know whether it was just genius marketing that it made literally the whole country talk about it because it was either good or bad. Everyone was excited or they hated the thought of it. But yeah, I actually think the biggest the game changer for us is that you could be flicking through BBC and it just comes on the TV. And I think
Mhm.
for Ireland in particular, that was brilliant. And you could have random people just tuning in who weren't necessarily cricket fans, so I think that's brilliant. But yeah, no, it's so good. Like I'm a massive fan of women's sport in general, and just to see it absolutely explode like that was brilliant. And then obviously to culminate with Gabby playing in the final in Lords was deadly. Like, it was just, it was the icing on the cake, I think, for the Irish, to be honest. And obviously, sorry, and Sterlo as well. Can't forget the lads.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Sterlo absolutely dominating the final as
Just,
well. So that was brilliant to see.
Yeah. I suppose one other question as well, and it's just something that popped to mind, but with Test cricket, do you ever see, or would that ever be a goal for our Irish women to play a Test match, proper women's Test match?
Well, the first ever Irish Test match was Ireland women against Pakistan women in the 90s. So we've already played a Test match before the men, don't forget. I would love to play a Test match, absolutely love to play a Test match, but I don't know how high on the priority list that is for Cricket Ireland at the minute. And certainly in terms of, qualifying for T20 World Cups and 50 World Cups, and with a handful of semi-professional contracts, I'm not sure how that would fit into preparation for these things either. But I would love to absolutely love to play a Test match for sure. Might not be able to walk after it, but I'd love to play it.
Worry about that when it's over, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And just actually on your own with wicket-keeping and everything, like I have a lot of questions here, and one of the big debates is, keeper, is it a glove work first, then the batting, or vice versa? In your eyes, what's the more important to yourself?
I was picked as a keeper for a long time, definitely not as a batter, but I think it's probably the makeup of your team. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard when you can understand the reason for picking both, but when a chance is missed and you've got a part-time keeper in there and you're like, oh, it's a real, why did you didn't necessarily. I think, I think for those finer margins, I'm going to have to say keeper. Keeper first. Yeah, I think it's really important to develop your batting, and I never did just rest on the fact that I was being selected as a keeper. I would the coaches might not necessarily agree, but I would see myself as a top order batter, or certainly pushing for those spots. So that's taken a lot of hard work and a lot of throwdowns over the years. But I think I definitely do understand the reason for maybe the balance of the side, but I think glove work first.
And do you see the fact that you have two aspects to your game, that one takes pressure off the other? If you don't contribute with one, you can contribute with the other?
I've never really had that kind of thought. It was more, I just do a job with the gloves, and that's my role. It's not like batting or bowl. Like, I think it's more, I think with bowling, like, so, like if you get hit, you're like, oh, I'll get it back with the bat. But I never really thought like that with keeping. I was always like, no, I just have a job to do and that's what I'm doing. And if I get a chance to contribute with the bat, then that's a bonus. But that's just me.
And we'd say you've spoken about you initially came in as a keeper and developed your batting, but nowadays you know your game inside out. Do you spend more time in the nets, or do you spend more time with the gloves in your hand?
I definitely spend more time in the nets. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think it's more annoying. I feel like you just can never stop batting. Like, I bat all day, to be honest. Yeah. With the keeping, I like to, it's more of a feel thing. Like, I like to get at least, one good big session in a week, and then it might just be a top up then. But I just I do a lot of regulation, just takes and that repetitive action. So it doesn't take as much time potentially as, playing and missing 100 times at a ball in a net.
Yeah, we all love a good hit in the net, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I can't ask you about keeping and not ask about the mask, the face mask. Where did that come to mind to use, or what was the idea?
It's beautiful. I just do it for fashion. No, so when I first started, as I've alluded to, I was a little bit inexperienced on the whole cricket circuit. So when the ball used to go down the leg side, I would just dive, like, because I didn't know. I mean, obviously, footwork makes sense, but I hadn't watched a lot of cricket even, so it didn't really, come into my head. So yeah, I used to smack my head off the ground with the helmet, and I'd be like, "This is awful." I was like, "Why? This surely is a better way than this." So I just Googled it, So I've pretty much always worn it. Ever since I've kept pretty much. So yeah, it's one of those things you don't really feel. It's quite light, so I don't really feel it when I'm keeping. And then I see the pictures and I'm like, oh god. But yeah, yeah,
You're a
it's done.
trendsetter, so.
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure.
And I guess, as you say as well, you've given the most of your life to international cricket at this point. And how much longer do you see? Do you want to keep continuing on as long as you can?
Yeah, I think I definitely when I talk about getting better at batting, I still feel like I'm getting better at batting. Um, but yeah, I think I don't know. I do feel like I I don't really have an end line in sight, but that might not be down to me either, if that makes sense. So wait and see what Cricket Ireland think and the coaches think in the next few years, because there is a bit certainly with the championship potentially qualifying for the championship coming up, the 50 over World Cup and stuff like that.
Mhm.
There might be a little bit of a just kind of a change in Irish cricket, and I don't know if I fit into their plans. Brilliant. If I don't, I don't. But I've certainly enjoyed my time, and I still am enjoying it. So yeah, I don't personally have a finish line in sight or in mind.
We see with William Porterfield even today, he's like a fine wine, getting better and better, and I'm sure you'd be the same.
Oh, that's it. Absolutely. I know people always make that. They're like, well, Jimmy Anderson or Darren Stevens. I'm
Hmm
like,
hmm
yeah, or Matali Raj or Goswami. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, cricket is certainly with batting. I think you kind of you get to know it and understand it and kind of cope with the mental demands of batting. I think a little bit better as you get older. But yeah, it was good from Porty earlier. Pity we didn't
Yeah,
get over the
well,
line. But yeah, yeah.
I know, but look, hopefully we pull it back on Friday again.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your umpiring career. Many talents.
Yes.
What first made you kind of dip your toe into umpiring?
It's umpiring. I haven't given you a dodgy LBW, have I?
No, God, no,
Then
no.
good, good,
I never, no, not yet
good to
anyway.
hear. I was doing cricket development officer in Malahide, and I had done the basic course the year before in Tasmania, but literally just to take a box. Like, I had no actual interest, and then so I was a cricket development officer with Malahide. One of my roles was managing the boys under 15s, which includes doing everything: scoring, umpiring, tees, getting the team together, getting them there. What 15-year-old boys are like, making sure they're on time, that kind of stuff. So, I didn't particularly, not that I didn't enjoy the coaching, like it was fine, but I did always felt a bit anxious about them enjoying themselves and all that kind of stuff. So, um, but I loved the umpiring and I paid particular attention to doing it right and, just giving the best decisions I could and not been on my phone at square leg and things like that, which I know happens all of the time at that level. So when I went back to Tasmania, then I was going back to play a bit of club cricket again, and I approached Cricket Tasmania and I was like, any chance you could train me up properly? And so I think they were probably nearly fell over themselves that a woman had suggested that. So they were brilliant, to be fair to them. And I used to do some midweek games of like state, like under 17 trial games and stuff like that. But I'd go with their state panel umpires. So they put a lot of time and energy into me, to be fair. That was brilliant. So, and then from there I did a season with Cricket Leinster, and then I went back and I moved to South Australia then. So I joined up with Saka, and then I've been going back and forth and doing season to season ever since. So yeah, I've been very fortunate with my umpiring as well.
So it's fair to say it's a labor of love. It's not a chore for you. It's something you actually enjoy.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a weird one because it's your whole. So even when I'm in Australia, like I umpire all day Saturday and play all day Sunday, and so it's the entire weekend gone. And I'm like, I must like it because otherwise I
Hmm
wouldn't do it. So it is like sometimes like when there's a boring game, you're like, Jesus, come on, will
Yeah.
somebody hit some runs here? It can be a bit boring, but that's very rare. To be honest, I normally quite happy to go out in my Saturday or midweek or whatever and do my games. And obviously then I
And
get great opportunity then as well. So I do get to do some really good games. So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I know I much rather umpire than score. When I get myself out for my two ball duck, I always volunteer to umpire straight away.
Oh, good. Good to
Um,
hear.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
the next thing I was going to say, would you recommend to do the umpiring courses and stuff like that?
Yes, definitely. And I think I was just kind of, if I didn't do that season of cricket development officer in Malahide, I don't think I ever would have experienced it, if that makes sense. So absolutely
Mhm.
do it and give it a go. I mean, it's great. Like if you like cricket, you're kind of out there in the middle of the game watching a game as well. And it's yeah, I definitely. I mean, look, there's only one way to find out if you like it or don't, and it's to try it.
True, true.
So at least you can say. So I think some people are just put off by the thought of it. They're like, no, that's way too embarrassing, and I don't want people to, think I'm a loser, pretty much. And it's just like, well, it's
Of course.
yeah, no, it's good fun. Like it is good fun, and
Yeah.
players. I don't think you if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. But I think if you hold your hands up and you're like, yeah, I got that one wrong, I think players respect that more. And there's definitely players who'll try and put a bit of pressure on you, but overall the experience, it's not like, people turn around and abuse you all of the time. It's a couple of isolated incidents here and there. And generally if you do a good job, you don't get abused. So, it is. I think the thought of it puts people off, but actually I think, yeah, definitely, definitely give it a go. I think you sound like you're going to be an umpire already with your.
I've actually I have done the course, and to be fair, I actually was down to umpire games, and
Yes.
embarrassingly, I never actually showed up to do them. I put my hand up. I'm sorry,
You
but
never showed up. Oh my
I
goodness.
I know. Well, not that. Yeah, it was one game I was supposed to show up for, and I chickened out at the last moment. So yeah,
Yeah.
so apologies for that. But yeah, no, it
Okay,
is.
you're
It is.
forgiven. You're forgiven.
Yeah,
We'll
thanks.
take you back.
Definitely, definitely. But there was actually one or two things I actually wanted. I did a little bit of research on you earlier, and two things came to mind. I had to write them down. You were the first woman in 38 years to stand in a men's grade cricket match, and on August 2018, the first Irish woman to umpire a men's list day fixture. How does that make you feel?
Um, yeah, it's one of those that it's kind of like that's just me umpiring a game of cricket. Now I know I don't want to sound ungrateful at all, but I just happened to umpire in South Australia and nobody had done it in 38 years. So I was just going to umpire a game on a Saturday. It wasn't anything special or out of the ordinary. It just kind of just happened. So it's a bit of a shame really that there was nobody within that 38 year time
Hmm,
frame.
hmm.
And I guess with the thing yeah, sorry, that was in Adelaide. I guess with the um being the first woman to umpire this day game, I think that's it. Like it is nice to kind of have your name beside that, but again, it's just just umpiring another game, and hopefully, um, all these kind of firsts stop happening, if that makes sense. And there's going to be
Yes,
loads of women doing it, and it's not a big deal when we do games anymore. So I
absolutely.
know I umpired a game with my best friend actually in Adelaide, Eloise. We were the first female pair to do a men's first grade game, and like sure the cameras were out and everything, and I was like, we're I may not seem like, but I'm a bit shy. But we're just doing our job, like, and
Yeah.
we just happen to be the first pair. Like, yeah, it is. I kind of, it is nice to get a bit of recognition, but also it can be a bit embarrassing as well, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah, and you're obviously on the ICC development panel and things like that, which are huge and fantastic strides to be made. But you sort of touched on it a little bit as well. Like, were you more nervous actually umpiring a game like that or an international game, or actually playing in a game, which would be more nerve wracking for you?
Um, I have to say, I think probably umpiring. I don't get massively nervous. Well, actually, I get more nervous when I'm batting than keeping.
Okay.
Um, but I don't get massively nervous either way. But I definitely felt the most amount of pressure when I was umpiring is actually when I umpire women. So I remember doing some Ashes warm up games. The UCB very kindly brought me over, must have been 2 summers ago, to do some of the Ashes warm up stuff and a couple of the West. Actually, I played against the West Indies and then flew to England and I umpired them against England the next day. So that was pretty funny. But I
Mhm.
remember umpiring Meg Lanning and Elise Perry, who I've played against a lot.
Mhm.
But then I definitely felt, felt the pressure on field, and that was the first time I'd umpired them. I've been lucky. I've umpired them since in the WBBL, but that experience definitely helped me because I would have had those nerves obviously in a bigger game and not just a warm up game. So, but I do feel I think it's that peer judgment. I think that I'm most nervous about. Yeah, but yeah, it's all experience. I don't it's not like crippling or anything like that. But yeah, and once you get into a game, then you kind of just have to you go through your process, and that's it.
And did you have that kind of little knowing nod of, oh, I played against you. Well, you're umpiring me now. Like, what was
Yeah, yeah. A few of the girls were like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like,
it?
"Yeah, great question." But it's good because I mean, it's not that I know them or anything like that, but at least you have a little bit of common ground already
Mhm,
with them,
mhm,
and they know you're
mhm,
an international cricketer and not just some. Because
mhm,
we
mhm,
naturally have to fight harder and prove ourselves more as women in that role. So at least they know that I have a bit of a
mhm,
cricket background at least before
mhm.
the game's begun. So yeah, it's definitely helpful.
And do you see that being like your long term career, something you really want to take to the highest level and go right
Um,
to the top?
Yeah, do you know what? I would like to. I have thought about it because I get asked, but I don't know. I'd love to. Yeah, absolutely. But the actual, putting that into reality and continuing to be lucky with employers, and having time off, and like, I mean, it's good for me now. I think I've done 7 seasons in Australia, going back and forth, but like, I don't have any money in my bank account. I've got a lot of fantastic memories and amazing experiences, but there will become a point where I have to actually have a job, that pays bills alongside it and stop coasting through life. So I mean, yes, absolutely, but whether that's a realistic goal or not, I'm not too sure in terms of actually being a professional umpire or having a job and then umpiring on the side, and how far I can go with that. I'm not too sure, but um, time will tell.
Let's find out. Yes, as you say. But yeah, so we've kind of touched on umpiring and touched on cricketing and stuff, and kind of just wanted to get your outside of cricket interest. What makes you tick outside off the field? What do you get up to, if anything at all?
Nothing. I need to get a life. I need to stop. Like literally, if I had a Saturday free, I'd probably go to Pembroke and watch the cricket. Like
Oh,
that's dreadful, isn't it?
I can know I'd be the very same way. When
Yeah,
our other teams play, I have nothing else to do. I just go down and watch the other teams
yeah,
play, and yeah,
yeah.
it's a way of life, isn't it?
It is. It is. I know. To be fair, I like I just like hanging out with my friends, like, or going for a coffee. Or I've a massive family, so there's always a
Mhm,
family gathering at something. So go have a cup of tea and a chat with them. Or not so much when I'm in Ireland, but if I'm in Australia, I'd head to the beach and attempt to surf or go for a swim, that kind of stuff. Um I'm pretty outdoorsy, if that makes sense. I could go do
mhm.
something outdoors, yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, I definitely need to, branch out from cricket a little bit. That's for sure.
yeah. I recently bought a kayak and I found it's actually fantastic just to go out on the lake, chill out for an hour,
Yeah.
and come back in. So maybe that's something you could try.
Yes, absolutely.
Um,
No, I do. I've got more for in Australia as well. I've got more downtime, if that makes
yeah,
sense. So I do have more time to go to the beach and do it rather than here because
of
I'm
course.
working alongside playing and umpiring as well. So
Yeah.
mm.
And you said earlier you actually studied languages. You studied French and Italian and stuff. Would you ever have considered maybe teaching or something like that?
I did. I applied for the H-dip and I didn't get in,
Oh,
which is very sad, and I didn't apply after. But that was before. I think you had to have experience when you applied, and I think I put down every coaching role I did under the sun, trying to buy some points to get in, but it didn't work. But I wouldn't. I don't think I'd do it now, and I think I'd be. I'm still very. I like being in Australia, and that travel aspect, and I think just being a teacher, in one spot would be time you very
mhm,
much to, um, yeah, time you want to hear where I do like to. I like my travel still.
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
but you never know.
And yeah, never say never.
Mm.
But yeah, so and do you see yourself maybe settling down in Australia, or is Ireland always going to be home?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm very like I've applied for a more permanent visa for Australia, and would like to still do. I'd like to go 6 months and 6 months. How if that plays out, I don't know if if the flights are, 5 grand, 10
Mhm,
grand to get in
mhm,
every time, that ain't
mhm,
happening.
mhm.
So, but yeah, I'm very much kind of here and now, and what's kind of, the next 6 months, and that's cricket here, and then we'll wait and see. Hopefully back to Australia for another season, and
Yeah.
yeah, and see how it goes. Yeah, but I've no, I don't want to be a doctor or anything like that. I've no, long-term solid plans like that, and see how we go.
Because that's actually what my next question was going to be, was in the awful scenario that sport wasn't the thing, what would Mary Waldron's life look like?
That would be awful. I think my mom did kind of try and hint to me once that, sport wasn't everything, and I was like, "What is wrong with you? Like, it is," you know. And she, to be fair to her, she gets that now. You know, she sees the enjoyment I get, and I guess I have some work through it as well. It's not a complete lost cause. And she loves, my parents are massive, massive cricket fans now, and they travel all around the
Brilliant.
world. So it's,
Yeah,
she's definitely come around to it.
yeah.
Um, I don't know, but I do really just enjoy working in an office. So I don't know what else I would do. I would have to do something, but
Mm.
yeah, I think I'd just be a regular human that
Thank,
worked in an
thankfully, it's not a
office. Yeah.
scenario.
I
Thankfully,
can't,
it's not a
yeah.
scenario.
I just
Yeah.
can't imagine life without sport.
Oh.
Even when you're injured, you've got rehab to do or swimming or something. There's no, there's or sport to watch. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know. I have no
yeah.
idea. It'll
Yeah,
be very,
it's a scary
yeah,
thought. It is.
very
It really
scary.
is.
Yes, yes.
But yeah. So look, before we wrap up, I've a couple of quick fire sort of one word answers and certain ones, as if first thing comes to your mind type stuff. So it's
Yeah.
always a bit of fun to be had with these.
Now I'm nervous. Yeah, now I'm nervous.
Okay, so first one is penalty technique: smash it or place it.
Place it. Place it
Oh,
hard. Place it hard. Yeah,
so somewhere in between.
yeah. But you got to
Okay,
play. Yeah, yeah. No, definitely don't smash it.
okay.
Mm.
Heads or tails?
Heads.
Mhm,
Mm.
mhm, bat or ball first?
Bat.
Yes, yes.
I'm
Correct
an
answer.
opener. I'm an opener.
Yeah, correct answer. Correct answer. This is a tricky one now. A hat trick at Wembley or 100 at Lords?
Oh, 100 at Lords, I reckon.
Oh,
Yeah. I only
mm.
just said earlier to somebody that I'd love to play at Lords. Um, yeah. I mean, it's close, but definitely 100 at Lords. Yeah.
That hopefully is the next
Yeah.
fan
That's it.
trip out so to
Yeah.
Lords.
I scored a hat trick at Rover Stadium. I think that's the same, isn't
Yeah, that counts. That counts. Yeah, that
it?
definitely
Yeah.
counts. So another one I have here is series or a movie.
I think probably a series.
Mm,
Mm.
mhm, mhm. Favorite mode of dismissal: stumping or catch?
Stumping.
I thought you'd say that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
Yes,
know. Yeah. It depends on the difficulty level. Like if it was a Rego stumping, it's a bit like, yeah. But if it's one of those where they just nudge forward and you're quick hands, yeah, definitely.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sure your regular stumping or dismissal is a lot different to mine. Your favorite follow on social media?
I don't know, but Billie Jean King liked or retweeted something of mine recently. Now I think it was her original tweet that I mentioned, and I was like, oh my goodness, I did screenshot it and send it to my friend. So yeah.
Cool. Very
Mm,
cool. Very, very
yeah.
cool. Favorite holiday destination?
Um, I'm gonna say maybe France. I think.
Oh,
Mm.
okay. Interesting.
I
Interesting.
don't really go on holidays all that much.
Mm-hmm,
Mm.
mm-hmm. Night in or night out?
It depends on the weather. Well, I really like. I'd like to say night out, but I'm gonna say night in because I'm just
Ah,
that's
yeah. The coaches will like that one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. If it's last night on tour, definitely night out.
Yeah. Okay. This one now is going to be very controversial. Your best mate in cricket.
Oh, it's gonna be
Put me
clear.
on the spot.
Claire Shillington.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I thought I'd put you on the spot with that one.
No, yeah. No, I've yeah.
Are you superstitious?
Um, Not at cricket, but I don't like. I wouldn't walk under a ladder.
Okay,
Mm,
okay, that's
but
just
not.
sensible, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I do sometimes if we have a really good partnership. I don't like moving seat,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'm generally pretty. Yeah, I wouldn't worry. I'd wear different underwear or whatever. I'm not too fussed.
I was going to ask you, who do you support? You already answered that one for me.
Mm.
So I've the last one is actually it's a huge one. It's a massive question. And are Mayo finally going to win Sam Maguire on Saturday?
No, no, not.
Oh,
And you know what? I have such little interest in GAA, but
Mhm.
it's funny that they keep losing, and I
I
absolutely
know.
love it. So absolutely, yeah, no, they're definitely not.
Is there a sense of bitterness coming through that Dublin were beaten by Mayo?
No, no, honestly, I like GAA is. I'd be more worried that the women were beaten by me, the kind of way, because it's the women. I
Okay.
wouldn't. I
Yeah, yeah.
honestly, GAA is.
It's
It's
not your
obviously
thing.
a fantastic Irish sport, and I respect it, but it doesn't. I
It's
don't
just
mind
yeah,
it. It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
something I watch even. Yeah, yeah. No, my family, Jeepers, my dad's a massive Kerry fan, and all my nieces and nephews are kitted out in Dub stuff. Now that would be, they were. I'd say there was tears now when Dublin lost, but yeah,
Mhm, mhm.
I have
Yeah.
found out through social media a few days later, probably. So yeah,
Okay, so you've just lost fans, Mayo.
yeah. I'm sorry.
So yeah, so just before we do finally wrap up, one question I would like to ask is, what is the best piece of advice you've been given, and a piece of advice you would pass on?
I think the best piece of advice I've been given is, if you think about playing a shot, just play it. And I think that comes just from second guessing yourself out in the middle and be like, and then if you overthink it, then you're in trouble. So if you just trust your instincts. And my piece of advice, um, I think my piece of advice would be, work hard and make sure you're prepared as you can be, because then you can have no regrets if you're as prepared as you can be, and it doesn't come off, then there's nothing you can do. But if you've half trained, or you've half committed, and then you don't do well, then you've nothing to fall back on. It was a
Very
bit
good
serious.
advice.
It was very
Yeah, yeah,
serious, wasn't it?
got it. Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah.
ended on a very serious note.
Mm,
But,
mm.
no, that was absolutely fantastic chat. Really, really enjoyed that. Some funny answers, some really serious answers, but a lot of good and interesting stuff covered. But just before we do wrap up, I'd just like to say, look, we're a growing channel, so please like, subscribe, share. We're also now on anywhere you get your podcast on audio form as well. We're actually on Spotify, believe it or not. So if you're on the go, give us a listen as well. But no, last words to you, Mary. Thanks so very, very much. And as I said, it's great to have you on, and in future, hopefully, we'll get you back as well.
Perfect. Thanks so much for having me, and best of luck with what you're doing.
Thanks very much. All the best.
Cheers.